What happens when a beloved soap star walks onto a daytime talk show and turns a simple interview into absolute chaos? It only took one comment about the host's parenting for Daniel Brocklebank to go from guest to getting escorted off the Loose Women set in what became one of the most shocking exits in British television history. This is the story of how one conversation spiraled so out of control that security had to get involved, and it all started so innocently. The Loose Women studio was buzzing with its usual energy. The audience settled into their seats, excited for another afternoon of chat and discussion. Denise Welch sat at the panel table, confident and ready, her years of experience showing in the way she commanded the space. She had interviewed hundreds of guests before. Nothing could rattle her. Or so she thought. Daniel Brocklebank walked onto the set with a swagger that immediately caught everyone's attention. The audience clapped politely as he made his way to the guest chair, but something felt different. There was an edge to his demeanor, a sharpness in his eyes that suggested this was not going to be your typical celebrity interview. Denise smiled warmly, trying to put her guest at ease. "Daniel, welcome to the show. It's so lovely to have you here." Daniel sat down, barely acknowledging the greeting. He looked around the studio like he was inspecting it, judging it, finding it wanting. "Thanks for having me," he said, his tone flat. The other panelists exchanged quick glances. Something was off already. Denise, ever the professional, pushed forward. "So, you've been on Coronation Street for quite a few years now. Your character has been through so much. How do you prepare emotionally for some of those heavier storylines?" Daniel leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Well, Denise, I think it takes a certain level of intelligence to really understand complex emotional work. Not everyone gets it. Some people just read lines and call it acting." The studio went quiet. Was he taking a shot at someone? Denise kept her smile, but her eyes narrowed slightly. "I think most actors would say it's about finding truth in the character, wouldn't they?" "Sure," Daniel said dismissively. "If you're content with being mediocre." A few audience members gasped. This was getting uncomfortable fast. Denise shifted in her seat. "Well, I think there are many talented actors who would disagree with you on that. Let's talk about your recent project. You've been very vocal on social media about creative control. Do you think actors should have more say in how their characters develop?" This was a softball question, a chance to reset the conversation. But Daniel wasn't interested in playing nice. "I think actors who know what they're doing should have control," he said pointedly. "The problem with television, especially daytime television, is that it's run by people who've never actually done anything important. They sit around talking about other people's work because they don't have any real talent of their own." The other panelists looked stunned. Was he really going there? Was he insulting the entire panel to their faces? Denise's smile vanished. "I'm sorry, are you suggesting that talk show hosts don't have talent?" "I'm not suggesting anything," Daniel said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I'm stating a fact. Anyone can sit behind a desk and ask questions. It takes zero skill." The audience murmured uncomfortably. This had gone from awkward to hostile in seconds. Denise took a deep breath. She was not going to let this man disrespect her on her own show. "Daniel, I've been in this industry for over 30 years. I've acted, I've sung, I've written. So have many of my colleagues here. We're not just sitting behind a desk. We're having conversations, creating content that millions of people watch every day." Daniel laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, please. You call this content? This is filler. This is what people watch when they have nothing better to do. You're not exactly creating art here, are you?" The tension in the studio was thick enough to cut. Audience members were looking at each other in disbelief. The camera operators didn't know where to point their lenses. The producers in the control room were frantically trying to decide whether to cut to commercial. Denise's face had gone from professional to ice cold. "You know what, Daniel? You're being incredibly rude. We invited you here as a guest, to talk about your work, to have a pleasant conversation. Instead, you've come here with an attitude, and you're insulting everyone in this room." "Oh, I'm sorry," Daniel said, not sounding sorry at all. "Did I hurt your feelings? Is this where you expect me to apologize for being honest?" "Honest?" Denise shot back. "You're not being honest. You're being arrogant and disrespectful. There's a difference." Daniel leaned forward, his eyes flashing. "Maybe if you spent less time worrying about your feelings and more time actually doing something worthwhile, you'd understand what I'm talking about." That was it. That was the line he should never have crossed. Denise stood up from her chair. "Excuse me?" The other panelists were frozen. The audience held their breath. "You heard me," Daniel said, standing up as well. "You sit here day after day, talking about celebrities, talking about gossip, pretending like you're doing something meaningful. Meanwhile, some of us are actually working. Some of us are actually artists." "Get out," Denise said quietly. "What?" Daniel said, pretending he hadn't heard her. "I said get out," Denise repeated, louder this time. "You don't get to come onto my show and disrespect me, disrespect my colleagues, disrespect our audience. You're done here." Daniel scoffed. "You can't kick me off. I'm the guest. People are here to see me." "Watch me," Denise said firmly. She turned to the crew. "Can we get security?" "Please?" The audience erupted. Some people were cheering for Denise. Others were gasping at the drama unfolding before them. This was unlike anything they'd ever seen on daytime television. Daniel's face turned red. "Are you serious right now? You're actually going to have me removed because you can't handle the truth." "The truth?" Denise said, her voice rising. "The truth is that you came here looking for a fight. You came here with an agenda to make yourself feel important by tearing other people down. That's not truth, Daniel. That's insecurity." "How dare you?" Daniel sputtered. "You don't know anything about me." "I know enough," Denise fired back. "I know that anyone who needs to constantly remind people that they're an artist probably isn't as talented as they think they are. I know that real professionals don't behave the way you're behaving right now." Two security guards appeared at the edge of the set. They approached cautiously, clearly unsure about what they were walking into. Daniel saw them coming, and his bravado cracked slightly. "This is ridiculous. You're making a huge mistake." "No," Denise said calmly. "You made the mistake when you forgot your manners." But Daniel wasn't done yet. As the security guards got closer, he decided to take one more shot. "You know what your problem is, Denise? You're bitter. You're bitter because your career peaked decades ago, and now you're stuck here, on this irrelevant show, talking to people who actually still matter." The entire studio gasped. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion. Everyone knew he'd gone too far, but they couldn't look away. Denise's expression didn't change. She'd been in this industry long enough to handle insults, but then Daniel kept talking. "And everyone knows about your personal life," he continued, his voice getting nastier. "Your parenting, your choices. Maybe if you'd focused more on your family instead of your career, you wouldn't be so desperate for..." "Attention now." That did it. One of the other panelists stood up. "That's enough." The security guards moved in quickly, each taking one of Daniel's arms. "Get your hands off me," Daniel shouted, trying to pull away. "Do you know who I am?" "Someone who's leaving," one of the guards said calmly. Denise remained standing at the panel, her hands gripping the edge of the table. She was shaking slightly, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "Daniel, I hope you get the help you need. Because this behavior, this anger, it's not about me. It's about you." "Oh, spare me the therapy session," Daniel spat as the guards started to lead him away. "You're all the same. Can't handle anyone who challenges you." "There's a difference between challenging someone and being abusive," Denise called after him. "You'll figure that out eventually. Or you won't. Either way, you're not welcome back here. Daniel struggled against the guards as they escorted him toward the exit. This is assault. You can't physically remove me. We can, and we are, one of the guards said matter-of-factly. The cameras stayed on Daniel as he was led off the set. He kept shouting over his shoulder, "You're all witnesses. She attacked me. She couldn't handle a real conversation." "I think the viewers can see exactly what happened here," Denise said to the camera, "and it wasn't me doing the attacking." Daniel's voice echoed through the studio as he was taken further away. "You're going to regret this, Denise. Everyone's going to know what you did." "They already do," Denise said quietly. "They're watching." The audience broke into applause. It started with one person, then another. Then suddenly, the entire studio was clapping. They were clapping for Denise. They were clapping because she'd stood her ground. She'd refused to let someone treat her poorly on her own show. Denise looked out at the audience, her eyes glistening with emotion. She wasn't crying, but she was clearly affected by what had just happened. "Thank you," she said softly. "I'm sorry you all had to witness that." "Don't apologize," someone shouted from the audience. "You did the right thing." More cheers erupted. One of the other panelists reached over and squeezed Denise's hand. "Are you okay?" Denise nodded, taking a deep breath. "I'm fine. I can't believe that actually happened." "None of us can," another panelist said. That was completely out of line. In the distance, they could still hear Daniel arguing with the security guards. "I'm not leaving. You can't make me leave." "Sir, you need to calm down," a guard's voice responded. "I will not calm down. This is my career. She's trying to ruin my career." Denise closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, she looked directly at the camera. "I want to say something to everyone watching at home. What you just saw is what happens when someone confuses confidence with cruelty. I've spent my entire career trying to be kind, trying to be fair, trying to give everyone a platform to share their story. But I cannot stand here and let someone use that platform to spread negativity and hurt." The audience applauded again. "We all have bad days," Denise continued. "We all get frustrated. But that doesn't give us the right to lash out at others. That doesn't give us the right to say hurtful things just because we're feeling hurt ourselves." From somewhere backstage, Daniel's voice rang out one more time. "You're nothing without this show, Denise. Nothing." The security guard's response was firm. "Sir, you need to leave the building now. If you continue to cause a disturbance, we'll have to call the police." That seemed to finally quiet him down. The studio fell into an eerie silence as everyone waited to see if there would be another outburst. But none came. Daniel Brocklebank had been removed from the building. Denise sat back down at the panel, smoothing her hair and straightening her notes. "Well," she said with a slight laugh, "that's definitely one for the highlight reel." The audience laughed, grateful for the moment of levity after such intense drama. "I think we need to take a quick break," Denise said to the camera. "When we come back, we'll try to salvage what's left of this show. And maybe we'll talk about how to handle difficult people with grace. Because clearly, that's something we could all use a refresher on." The cameras cut, but the conversation in the studio continued. Audience members were turning to each other, discussing what they'd just witnessed. The panelists huddled together, checking on Denise, making sure she was truly okay. A producer rushed onto the set. "Denise, are you all right? Do you need anything?" "I'm fine," Denise assured her. "Really, I'm just shocked. I've had difficult guests before, but nothing like that." "We're all shocked," the producer said. "No one could have predicted that." "What happened?" another panelist asked. "Why was he so aggressive from the start?" "I don't know," Denise said honestly. "Maybe he came in with something to prove. Maybe he's dealing with something personal. But whatever it is, it doesn't excuse that behavior." The makeup artist came over to touch up Denise's makeup before they went back on air. "You handled that brilliantly," she whispered. "You didn't lose your cool once." "I wanted to," Denise admitted. "Believe me, I wanted to." "But you didn't," the makeup artist said. "That's what matters." As the crew prepared to go back live, Denise took a moment to collect herself. She thought about all the years she'd been doing this job, all the interviews she'd conducted, all the conversations she'd had. And in all that time, she'd never had to physically remove a guest from the set. This was a first, an unwelcome first. But as she looked out at the supportive faces in the audience, at her colleagues rallying around her, she realized something important. Standing up for yourself isn't easy. Setting boundaries isn't comfortable, but sometimes it's absolutely necessary. The floor manager counted down. "We're back in 5, 4, 3. Denise took one more deep breath and smiled at the camera. She was a professional. She'd handled crisis before. She would handle this one too. But somewhere in the back of her mind, she knew that this interview, this confrontation, this moment would be talked about for a very long time. It would be replayed and analyzed and debated. People would have opinions about who was right and who was wrong. And that was okay, because Denise knew the truth. She knew that she'd done what needed to be done. She'd protected her space, her colleagues, and her audience from someone who came onto the show with bad intentions. Daniel Brocklebank had walked into that studio thinking he could say whatever he wanted without consequences. He'd underestimated Denise Welch. He'd underestimated her strength, her resolve, and her willingness to stand up for what was right. And now, he was gone, escorted out by security, his interview cut short, his appearance ending in disgrace. The cameras came back on. Denise smiled warmly at the viewers at home. "Welcome back, everyone. As you just saw, things got a little heated before the break, but we're moving forward, because that's what we do. We don't let negativity win." The audience cheered. "Now," Denise continued, "let's talk about something positive. Let's talk about kindness. Let's talk about respect. Let's talk about how we treat each other, both in person and online. Because what happened here today is a reminder that words matter, actions matter, and how we choose to show up in the world matters." As Denise spoke, her confidence returned fully. The shakiness was gone. The uncertainty had vanished. She was back in her element, doing what she did best, connecting with people, sharing wisdom, and creating meaningful conversation. And somewhere outside the studio, Daniel Brocklebank was probably realizing that he'd made a terrible mistake, that his moments of arrogance had cost him dearly, that burning bridges in the entertainment industry is never a good idea. But that was his lesson to learn. Denise had her own lesson to remember, that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to tolerate cruelty. That setting boundaries isn't mean, it's necessary. And that standing up for yourself, even when it's difficult, is always worth it. The show continued. The panel discussed other topics. The audience engaged. Life went on. But everyone in that studio knew they'd witnessed something extraordinary. They'd seen what happens when someone pushes too far. They'd seen justice served in real time. And they'd seen Denise Welch prove exactly why she'd been a fixture on television for decades. Not because she never faced challenges, but because when she did, she handled them with grace, strength, and unwavering integrity.